Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday night. We are here. We are ready for you. And I really think John's loading us up with some difficult questions tonight because otherwise, I originally thought tonight's show, MJ and I were just going to go get our gear that we're trying to sell and just put it in front of you.
And window number one, we have that a pretty good show.
Well, this was about how do you buy it safely, right? So I'm like, well, you buy from us. That's the easiest thing, right?
Well,
this could be our thing. If you want to buy equipment, go to Dan's house when he's not there and look for a set of speakers that are still in the box and never used.
I work from home now, so I'm here. But yeah,
might give you a good deal after all this time.
Possibly.
Sorry, Dan. I only say that because I helped him carry them when he won them. That's all. I'd have been plugging them in when I got to the car.
Where's that outlet? There's got to be an outlet in this car. But yeah, we're going to talk tonight about buying used gear. This is something that we have done throughout our lives and such. And obviously, the internet's made purchasing a bigger part with Marketplace and even Craigslist over the years. But for a lot of people who didn't like to do that type of purchasing and they need DJ gear, this is about the only way you're going to find gear for the next 3 to 6 months, unfortunately. I saw someone earlier today talking about needing a controller, any type of controller virtually at all. Not so much the $2,000 controller, but just the old Denon 6000 MK2 type of controller.
We can talk about this later, but this year, in the last, let's say, 4 months, I sold both of my MC6000s. I've sold just this past week both of the DDJ SB3s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So people are looking for things for the upcoming season, and I flash back to Ben Stowe when we did our show in November, I think it was, and we were talking about if you need gear for 2022 to be ordering it. And as much as I was the guy listening to Ben talk about that, I could have used some subs for upcoming prom here in May. So I thought if I order them in February, that should be enough time. The answer to the question is no, it wasn't. Actually, it was the end of January, and we ordered. I should have ordered them in December. I would have been able to get the subs that I needed for that. Not a big deal, but it's just a reality of the situation that there may not be those types of things available until fall, is what we're hearing. So for those of you who are in the chat room, if there's some way that you have purchased gear that might be a little bit different that you could share, please put that into the chat room. We'd love to be kind of hearing some of your stories about where you found gear, how you purchased gear, and how you've done it safely. And we're going to kind of bounce around between your comments and such in the chat room and what we're talking about. So first off, Dan, you and I have not talked much about us selling gear. Has this been something that have you really ever done much of that where you've sold used gear?
Not a lot. So the music store that's near us, near where I live, like the only one that we have, they will do some consignment type of things. Mm-hmm. So for a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past, I've typically taken it down to them. I'm like, listen, this is what I'm looking for it. They take whatever that price is, tack on their money that they want. And so then that's the price they're going to sell it for. I've done that somewhat, but I've not had a lot of success with it. And I think what it comes down to really is because the area I'm in is relatively small, and while it is a music store that carries DJ stuff, they're very much known for their live instrument section. So the stuff that I was selling was not their typical client. So I had taken an old case down with an American Audio CDI 500.
Okay.
So I haven't used that for 8 years now, at least. And so it was probably down there for at least 5 to 6 years, at least. I got a call from them in the fall. Hey, I really didn't need it anymore. And I was to the point, whatever you want out of it, sell it for that and keep it all. It was frustrating. But they sat down there for about a year And then they called me up and they're like, listen, and so I went and picked them up and Facebook Marketplace stuff. For these speakers are from New York City. To ship is also like, will you take $200 off? Logic's off, and I'm not willing to come down as much as their marketplace right before I go on my vacation this year. And maybe
it cutting out and when we are when you talked. Crap, I forgot to get water too. You know, we gotta have water just in case we might need to take a new drug. All right.
Oh my goodness.
I have trouble believing that you have trouble selling those speakers because they're really good speakers.
They are.
And I'm not blaming you or anything else. It's just odd, especially right now with there being people wanting speakers so badly and good speakers, not just, like that's a new speaker. It's not even a used, hey, I've been using this for a year sort of thing. Yeah.
It all comes down to brand. It all comes down to brand awareness. So there was somebody who so I sold my photo booth, sold it on Facebook Marketplace. It was just the shell. And this was a guy who actually came from like Long Island, New York. Like he sent one of his guys out to pick it up. And before I came, I said, just out of curiosity, you looking for speakers too? Like you're coming all this way, take advantage of this. And I told him about them, and he goes, I didn't even know they made speakers for DJs.
What brand are they?
Pioneer.
Well, I thought, they have the whole Pioneer audio thing.
Yeah, but that was
on the wall.
That was only a brief time with speakers that they did the because they came on, and I would say because they just had the one brand or the one model, the series we'll call it.
Yeah,
and it was probably 2 or 3 years that they showed them at trade shows, and they've never come out with a new or another version. So, yeah, there's.
They talked about it all the time that they've always made them. They've always made some version of, But as far as that series, that size, and everything else, it's just not something. And because it lacks the awareness, for lack of better terms, I think that was the biggest thing. I mean, just case in point, I was originally, my plan was I was selling those and I was keeping my QSC. And then I hooked them up in my living room, and they sounded, I compared them side by side, and I went, oh my gosh, these are so much better than what I was using. And I think it's just the natural wood and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, well, then I'm having trouble selling these, so I'm going to keep these and I'm going to sell the QSC. And I put QSC up, and I had, it was gone within a week. Both of them were gone within a week. I had multiple offers. Price point, a little bit cheaper than what the other ones were, but they were also used. The other ones were new, and but still, huge, instantly, people were almost fighting over them.
And I think that's a great is the name brand. I think, and there's names that within our industry that are. In that specific case, QSC would be known more in the amplifier speaker world than Pioneer would be in that. Even though the Pioneer speakers, I think, had been better quality at that with that particular line. And I think that's one of the areas where you get into off brands, specifically lighting. Right now, there's so many companies that are producing lighting that you can buy off Amazon, even though it looks like the same stuff you can get from maybe one of the manufacturers. If you have it and you're trying to turn it and sell it, you paid $100 for the light, you're trying to get $50 for the light, and there's many times where you're not going to be able to get $25 for the light. Maybe not in 2022, now that people can't find stuff. They're probably going to be paying more closer to that $100 a pop. But a couple of years ago, I had a couple of lights that came into the office that were sent out for us to do a video demo on, and they looked nice and did the video thing, and I was just going to sell them to make a few dollars off the process. And I put them out there, and I think they were $90 or $95 lights a piece. And I ended up selling for $20 a piece. Now, part of that is because of the name brand. The other part of it is that I'm not a really good used gear salesperson. My friend Jeremy Lanby, which you guys have seen on any of our videos, he's one of these guys that would have bought those $95 lights and somehow sold them for $180 a piece. he's got that gift, and he has people who come in there and they're like, I'll pay extra because you've got the lights here and I can take them home and I have them tomorrow. Me, on the other hand, that person would come in there and for some reason I'd end up paying him $5 to take the lights. That's kind of how it works. I'm not really good when it comes to selling used gear.
Well, I think, if you're going to be selling your gear, that is one of the things that you've got to really like take your time and be smart about, because just from the standpoint of, unless you're in a large metropolitan area where, somebody could randomly search for your tag and find what you're looking for, how you're tagging it, what you're using, what words you're using, where you're posting, all those things become important, because otherwise the average person is not going to potentially find what you're looking for. When you have a bigger pool of people, I think it makes it a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. I think the pool of people, I think, has a little bit to do with it, but let's jump back to Lanby. Lanby, basically, if he didn't DJ again, he makes enough off his used gear sales where he'll buy it and bring it up to little town northern Minnesota. And he has people coming from, an hour or two to come and pick things up and selling stuff. So, yeah, there's part of it, but I think he's also gotten himself into an area, and he's become known as the guy who, if you need something, he's the guy you go to.
Well, that's what I mean. Like I was saying, like if you're setting it up right, if you're publishing it right, if you're making the product, or if you're known in his case, you don't have to do that, or you have to do that better than if you just have a large pool of people where you can just kind of throw it up and hope somebody grabs it.
Yeah.
You're wanting to get the high dollar value. That's where you're going to have to take some more time to post your gear and to post it right.
Yeah, for those of us, trying to sell. MJ, now you've of course talked about it on a number of shows, and you mentioned at the beginning about selling some controllers and such. Let's flip it around before we get into actually some of the things you've done with the selling and how you've handled that side of it too. Have you made used gear purchases yourself?
Yes.
Okay. When you've done that, what are some of the things that you have done to assure the best quality or the best chance of having a piece of gear that wasn't a piece of junk? How have you handled that?
I pick a smaller DJ.
One that you can pick up?
One that I can beat up. No. No, again, Dan. Sorry, Dan. I got jokes, son. I got jokes. You don't even know. With living where I live, everybody's a DJ. When I sold the stuff, we'll talk about that in a bit. One of the guys who bought it is just, I was thinking about getting into the DJ hobby. That's why I bought it. So everybody's a DJ here. And if I just want something, I'll just say, hey, I'm looking for this. And if nobody has it for sale, which I guarantee whatever I'm looking for, someone's going to have it for sale. And if they don't, I'm going to get 20 offers. This is just like that. So there's a lot of opportunity. My speakers, I bought off a friend of mine. He KS12s. CK12s. Trying to mix them all together there. Yeah, he didn't like the sound of them, so he just wanted rid of them. And I got them for a ridiculously good price because he just wanted rid of them to put the money into the next ones. So you have stuff like that. There's always somebody here with something for sale, and there's always somebody here who wants to buy it. A friend of mine does a multi-op, and he just put a thing out on one of the because there's multiple Facebook DJ marketplaces here. Right. So there's groupings of Pittsburgh DJ Network, Pittsburgh DJ, what do they call it? Not yard sale, something like that. And you can literally go in there, hey, I'm looking for this, and you'll get offers or just stuff like that. I've sold most of mine recently through Facebook Marketplace, and you talked about wording. This is how I worded them. Let me think how I did that one here. It was Pioneer DJ SB3, $200 firm, 2-channel USB mixer controller, open box, never used, local Pittsburgh, Southwestern PA only, no shipping, no trades. So that was in the title, not the description. So they got everything in that title, and 200 firm was in there, and that kind of gets the people who are glancing and just kind of, they go, nope, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to bargain, stuff like that. Sure. So there's ways to look at that. And if you're willing to ship, I don't understand why. I know. Did you get any people that wanted you to ship it, Dan?
Well, again, what was that?
Besides that one New York person, did you get people that wanted you to ship them to them?
Couple, yeah.
Okay, because I get constantly people from everywhere. Will you ship? I'll pay extra.
For other stuff, absolutely. So, for example, I have a old case that I'm trying to unload from years ago, and that was another situation where they're like, like people in Florida were hitting me up like, hey, will you ship it up? Will you ship it? Will you ship it? Will you ship it? And I was just like, I just don't have the time, the space, and the size. And to be honest with you, for what it's going to cost to ship something this size, you could buy it new better. Like and for the type of case,
yeah, I get
the type of case it's in stock. So
yeah, that's why I said I get a lot of offers for shipping, and I won't do it because I just don't feel like it, and I have enough marketplace here to do that.
Right.
But in the far end of that, a friend of mine had. Do you remember the old Pioneer the DVD DJ controller things? He had a set of those for years, and he put them out to see who would buy them, and a guy from Texas wanted them, sold it to him, but in the process of shipping, they got all mangled. Well, he did have enough insurance on them that it got covered, but that's something you have to think about if you want to ship. You've got to make sure the insurance covers if something happens. If they're unhappy with it, how are they going to get it back? So it's one of the reasons why I deal with local, and I will tell them, I'm going to hold on to the money. If you don't like it, just let me know, bring it back. And as long as it's in the same condition and working, I have no problem with that, give it a week or whatever. But like I said, for me, it's easy for how many people live around here and how many people want to be a DJ. Stuff goes real quick. Except my 7,000 right now. I've not got one single inquiry on it. So because it's Denon.
That surprises me.
Well, you're talking about brands. Denon is not a popular brand. I love them. I was with them for years, but everybody uses Pioneer or whatever's cheapest. That's the two. So that's why the other Pioneer stuff just went instantly. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question? I don't even know anymore.
It's one of those nights, everybody.
Yeah,
sorry.
And the direction I wanted to head there is when you've been kind of getting to the idea of the safety of making purchases, not so much on the meeting at a central location, that side of it. We can talk about that a little bit later, but how to. You said you're going to hold on to the money. So they go and they get back to the house and they like, hey, this isn't working. Then they can have that discussion with you and say that is. But how do you? Do people plug it in and try it or how?
Sometimes, yeah. For the older used equipment like those, I told you I sold the Denon 6000s, both the MK1 and the MK2 to the same guy. I took stuff along to show them that it works. Everybody else, I open the box, they inspect it, make sure you're okay with this, that sort of thing. Most people just are in that mindset that they're getting it below cost and they're happy, because like I tell them, hey, I work for Disc Jockey News. I get this stuff for testing. It's never been out of my studio. That right there, oh, he's a tester. Okay. Yeah, that must be good. At least that's the way I perceive, the way I think they perceive me. But I at least so far, I haven't run any problems. Like I said, I'm real guarded about this stuff. I also, if something is used, like I did fully disclose about the Denon being refurbished. I'm not going to tell somebody, I said, it's all those things have been refurbished and it comes with a free, because I ordered a skin to throw along with it just to sweeten the deal. And I didn't even put firm on it. So I was thinking somebody would make me an offer and I'd be like, sure, absolutely. But you kind of have to, there have been, no joke, there have been people who wanted to buy it that I looked at their webpage and I blocked them from then on out because I just don't want to do business with somebody that, like, there's people on there just doing constant like political stuff or talking about this, just troublemaker, what I call a troublemaker, someone posting something, not as in this is my opinion, but as in I want to stir something up.
Sure. I
have no interest. So I just go, I don't answer them back when they say it's available and I block them.
Mm-hmm.
I block a lot of people. You have no idea. There's been famous DJs that sent me friend requests that I'm like, nope. And I'm talking like national acts that I went, no, I'm not interested.
Someday Will Smith will get over it.
Next subject.
Was it too soon?
I don't understand why people want to talk about this. Live a life. Don't watch other people live lives. That's what I say. Go live your life. Stop watching reality shows. Stop watching people. Just live your life. Get out from the TV and go do something.
Sounds boring. Sounds much more exciting to be living other people's lives.
I want to point this out in case you don't know. There is a couple different websites. One of them is called safetradestations.com. And another one is safetradespots.com. And those are things you can put in your zip code, and it will give places that you can go and meet someone that's a safe environment. A lot of them are police stations. A couple of them are gas stations that have outdoor cameras, stuff that's been verified. To if you need to meet someone, these are places that they encourage you use these as opposed to something else. A lot of the police stations around here literally have signs, safe spot to do transaction, right there. So that's something you also have to guard yourself with, both you and them feel comfortable because, I don't know who finds me threatening, but maybe they might. I don't know.
You never know.
But yeah, those are two. You just use your resources that are out there. With the internet, there's everything at your fingertips now, so you don't have to worry about too much. I do cash. A lot of people want to do like a Venmo or a Cash App or anything like that. You can. I don't really like doing that, but you just you have to figure out what you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And I've drawn my lines where I will sell stuff through Facebook Marketplace, but I don't want to buy stuff through Facebook Marketplace.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I think that I've purchased a couple of things through Facebook Market, but it's been local things pretty much because first off, if I have to drive an hour to go save $10, it's not happening in this guy's world. It's not. But I have another part of our executive board here at the Young Estate that will travel that hour to go save the $10. So I've been involved, but it's been right. Strong back, weak mind guy over there, hauling the chair out of the house type of thing. But the interesting I've had more success with making sales in the weekend handyman type world with the tools because I have a lot of that. And my the folks who come in to purchase that, when I've had DJs come in and we've looked at gear, it's a negotiating game 9 times out of 10. It's interesting when I'm selling a lawnmower. Very seldom is there any negotiating. They're like, they come in there, and it's as you were saying, MJ, is they're getting basically a new lawnmower that's maybe gone out and done a demo, and they're getting it at 80% of retail, and they're like, hoo, and they're good to go. And it's really interesting because initially I wanted to not, they say don't be selling stuff and have people come to your house type of thing. Well, when you're dealing with lawnmowers, you really don't have much of a chance because I'm not going to load it up and take it to a police station. And then it's like, oh, can I see it run? Well, sure. Let's go mow the police off, or the grass in front of it.
You might get a part-time job, John. You never
I could. Well, where can we meet? Well, this week I'm Walmart's paid me to come and mow in front of. Yeah. So. But
that's true. That would be difficult. Even a lot of power tools, you'd have to fire them up at least.
Yeah, exactly. So you're showing these things, but it's worked out well. We haven't had problems with it. But another thing I
just imagine you selling a chainsaw and going to the police station and firing it up.
Yeah. How's that guy? He's back again. And if we go outside, he's going to put us in a YouTube video. So it's going to be great. But it in our particular case is that, yes, people that are coming here to purchase things know that we have both DJ gear and the other, but we've also have enough security cameras around the area that when they come in, they see that they are on one of 15 cameras that are around here. And for those of you who think that's a little excessive, it is. But, I get a lot of, I enjoy watching the rabbits in the middle of the night running past the cameras. It's like, oh, there's the bunny. There's Spot. Ooh, there's the.
There are people out there that have very successful YouTube channels doing that, John. There's a guy I've watched, believe it or not, has a big fish pond on his farm, and he has cameras all over the place pointing towards where owls nest and other place where deer, he puts food out for the deer. He has this little mini picnic bench that he puts squirrel food on and cameras pointing at that. So you could maybe do that, get some extra clicks just from wildlife.
Well, yeah, Lori was shooting video of a squirrel trying to climb a metal pole today, and it looked like one of those bad YouTube videos where the squirrel would go up the pole and slide back down, go up. Yeah, so I guess we're not far from that. But yeah, it's I think the type of things that a person is selling certainly makes a big difference in can you get a decent return on it. Older gear, not so much. Newer gear depends on what it is. Right now, I think DJ controllers, you could probably sell them for the brand new price, and you would probably be able to get that if it was a usable in the field type controller as opposed to a bedroom type controller that's just RCA out.
both SB3s, they run for what, 250?
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark.
I sold them both for 200.
Yeah, so you did really, really well.
Really didn't bat an eye on that.
Yeah.
So I think it also comes down to availability. That's the other thing. It's like, if you have a product that is still being sold, like it's not a discontinued item, it's still being sold new, but it's just out of stock. That's going to make somebody that typically makes somebody a little bit quicker to jump on it, knowing that it's not dated, unless it's, what I've also seen is for a lot of the people, and we'll just use the MC6000, for example, I still see it, people who post on Facebook or different things, man, I really need to get another 6000. Like, they don't make them anymore. And that has been my controller. And, I'm starting to have a little problem. I need to try and find one of those, or a 4000 was kind of the same deal where, these have been discontinued. You can't buy them new. So sometimes you get, almost cult followings of certain series of them. But beyond that, I think a lot of people look for that. Is it still something that's sold? Yes. Can I get it? No. Okay, now I'm going to find it used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I ended up having two 1000 SRTs this past year and sold them both for full price. Could have sold them over full price, but I was selling them to a friend, and I'm like, he wanted both of them cash. So I'm like, sure. So it's like Dan said, it's kind of depends on different things. There, like Dan said, there's cult following stuff because the Pioneer, the mixers by Pioneer, not the controllers, the mixers and the Rain mixers all have good resale because people they'll maybe get a backup for something, or some guys only want this as opposed to paying $2,000 for one. They'll maybe pay $1,000 for the two back or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have good resale on some of those.
Yeah, and that's so interesting is how a few years back, if we'd been selling that 6000, the 6000, I had a tough time getting $200 for 6000 a few years back, and now.
Really?
Yeah, they were
$450.
Yeah, exactly.
That was recent.
Yeah, that's
a few years back.
Yeah,
that was. Yeah, I was surprised that I put it in there for that. The guy hawed and he went for it. He says, "Is there a case for it?" I said, "Yeah, there's a case for it." Oh, absolutely. Okay.
It's called Hefty.
Yeah.
Toilet bag up. Oh, cinch sack. Yeah.
And talking about cases, we talking about stuff being away. I've had a case ordered for the Rain, a little quick carry case, since January when I got it. Still not in, and that's through Guitar Center, so that's not even like some side order. They're just not available right now.
They're bigger, should be able to pull.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you like to do cash, and of course I've had people talk about using Venmo myself, and I've had some transactions back and forth with Venmo. I'm not exactly super familiar with Venmo, so the concern I've always had is when it came to using even credit cards with the DJ business, when people would pay on that, there's always that whole concept of chargebacks, and I've always been concerned about that. And that's why whenever we've done transactions for selling in marketplace, it's always been a cash transaction, whether I'm paying or somebody is paying me type of thing. But how familiar is that a concern nowadays when a person is selling something that they may get the controller that works completely, and if they Venmo'd me, that they could basically say, it didn't work, and they pull their money back some way, shape, or form.
They can't on those.
Yeah, I don't think Venmo can go back.
Yeah.
Cash you can do. Yeah, there's some that you can do, like you can dispute it and things like that, PayPal and Venmo is a division of PayPal. So there might be something within there if like it's legit, but it's one of those things where they try and really set it up in such a way that if you're doing a business transaction, you're supposed to, they want their cut. So the question is, did you pay them as not a business transaction to avoid any of the fees? Then you also lose your protection.
Oh.
So it is one of those things like, listen, if you're willing to do this and you kind of take the risk, and that was the same deal with PayPal. Like PayPal was friends and family was how you got around it. If you did friends and family, you're selling to, or you're sending the money to a friend, it didn't cost anything as long as there was not a business account tied to it. But then there's no protection if there is a dud. So, But I also feel that if you're like, okay, I'm going to take that risk, and somebody decides to do that buyback, those companies are also large enough that, it might get tied up for a little bit, but it's not one of those things where I want my money back. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's gonna have to be some follow through and from both sides, and be like, no, like look, here it is, and I offer to come get it and give them their money back. They want to keep the product and get their money, and that's not, and just stuff like that to kind of protect yourself. Obviously the best is kind of that same idea. Like, if you, here's the thing. If you meet somebody up at the local police station and you give them cash and they give you a product that you can't test, they can leave, and it's kind of the same idea. So,
right.
There's got to be something there that's got some protection.
Yeah. And that's always been a concern. You get to that point. It's like, well, the kids broke a cell phone. So we needed a new cell phone in a short period of time because it was a shattered screen and they didn't, whatever. So you start looking around. It's like, oh yeah, there's a iPhone 8 that's on the marketplace and their pricing wasn't too bad. But it's like, okay, so will I be able to go and we meet to wherever and be able to test it enough to be confident? And it got to the point where I decided not to, because of one particular thing when it comes to iPhones is the battery health situation. Because in iPhones, after the phone has been activated for a couple of weeks, it will give you a battery health report. And if it's below 80%, they say you should replace it, which is an $80 thing. So it's like, okay, if you go into buying one, there's no way you can test or you can check it unless they had it active and still working, and then they would clear it while you're sitting there. That could be a possibility. So really, there's no way to know, and you got to assume you're going to have to put a battery in it. Is your best way to go forward, and I just chose not to. It's at that point, it's like I'll go get an Apple refurb, and it'll be another $150 more. But then, if there's a problem with it, I have 30 days, and I can go back to Apple and say, "Hey."
Yeah, that's why I bought some used equipment from Guitar Center, because they give you I think it's 14 days to return it. And believe it or not, there was a controller I bought one time, and within 14 days, I'm like, "Nah, this ain't it," and took it back, got my money back.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of have to, the best thing to do is find someone and see if that can work. I would say as the expo comes up, if you want any equipment, put your feelers out to everybody who's going to the expo. If you're driving there, find somebody that maybe has that and is willing to bring it. And that things like that become a good, trade-off.
Oh yeah. I mean, great point there, MJ, because there were numerous friends of ours who brought gear to expo and they plugged it in their room and demoed it. And I think three of our friends bought controllers from someone else during Expo. And they tried them out a little bit and liked them, and off they went. See, any of the DJ gatherings, it's been, some actually have swap shops as part of it, but it's definitely a great time, because if I try it out tonight, and then they're probably still going to be here tomorrow, so if there's a question or anything, I could say, hey, about that.
Yeah. It's like anything else. You just kind of have to be smart, be guarded, leave yourself room for backing out if you don't want to do it. Make, to the point where if you're uncomfortable with selling to someone, if you're uncomfortable from buying to someone, if you're uncomfortable with buying a used thing, just don't do it. Don't push your boundaries. Figure out what your boundaries are. Don't push them. Like John with the phone, a perfect example. You probably could 99% of the time be fine, but is it really worth that ticking in the back of your head? What did I just do? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
be comfortable with whatever you choose to do.
And even the idea of buying something from a friend or someone I mean, at one time we bought a cell phone from a friend of mine who we did some youth ministry things together, and it was a phone from one of his children, I believe, and the phone worked and such, but the battery was, after a short period of time, and we knew what was getting there, so I figured the $80 and good to go. So I sent it off to Apple. Well, it turns out that the phone had been submerged, and we didn't know that, and the parents didn't know that. The kid had submerged, had gotten underwater, and that was an old enough phone. It wasn't watertight or whatever. So Apple said instead of being an $80 repair, it's going to be a $350 repair, which I paid because they basically sent out a new phone. But it's one of those things that even though I knew because I knew the person, I didn't have the heart to go back and say, you know what your kid did?
Yeah.
It's like, he's like, hey, how's that phone working out for you? Well, and I ended up getting it replaced. What happened? Well, I didn't like the color. Yeah, I didn't.
That's with Android. I don't think it's as far off with Android. You get a little bit more. You don't have to invest as much in, because I always have a backup phone, and the one I had before was so old it wouldn't get updates. So I ended up picking up a new one and bought a used one off of, I think it was Facebook Marketplace. I only paid like $80 for it, and I knew what I was getting into, and it was not a phone that I needed to use every day. It was a phone that if something happens, it fit the SIM of a modern phone, as opposed to having an adapter, sort of thing. And that stuff like that, if that's all you need, then that'll work. Like I said, it's just something around that if something breaks, I still have a phone to call the place and say my good phone broke, because I don't have a landline. So things like that, you can, but you like with your kids, you would want them to have something reliable that wouldn't, in the middle of a dad, can you come get me? Where are you at? You don't want that.
Yeah, and most of the time we've had pretty good fortune with that, or luck with things, but things can happen, and it's never completely predictable. Ernie there mentions in the chat about shipping something via the post office, and as the guys mentioned earlier, having insurance on things. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's only $50 in there. Yeah, no, and you've got $500 worth of gear. If it breaks or they damage it or whatever, you're going to get $50 for it. So if it's $200, you're best to just pony up and figure that into the shipping costs that you're going to have to buy the insurance to make sure it's covered, because there've been numerous items sent and more in my handyman world, but there have been numerous items that have gotten here and the boxes are beat up, and they UPS is standing right there. He's like, pop it open, let's take a look. And we pop it open, and then the snowblower chute is bent, or the housing on the lawnmower got crushed or something. I bet you there's been 20 major items, lawnmower size items over the years that have had to go back, or they filed the paperwork, and then they send me out a new piece, and then I have to try to fix it here. But yeah, so
my UPS guy just drops his stuff and runs.
I
shouldn't say that. It was more my FedEx. The day I just recently got the Surface, and I was like, all right, and I go out and the bottom of the box was open.
Oh,
and
my.
I'm like I just start looking around. I'm like, am I missing? Like, I was like, am I missing anything? No, I wasn't missing anything. But out there for like the longest time, I'm like, I mean, because it was like legit, like open.
Oh, goodness.
And I was like, oh, and they didn't take it. Like, oh, okay. And it was like I was home when it was delivered, so it's not like it's not like it sat out and somebody like came by or anything like that. It was like I got the notification. Oh, it's delivered. All right, go outstairs. And they were gone.
So some people in the larger cities have doorbells.
Yeah,
doorbells. Push the button and
I got a doorbell.
Noise goes.
But it doesn't have the camera on it.
Some people
they don't ring our doorbell. They just drop it and go.
Some people have electricity, so you can have cameras mounted, for the doorbell.
Yeah, city folk have that, Dan.
Yeah, the big city.
John, you coming to install it for me? That runs wires.
I was going to say mine's
you can't tell what happened here. This was from playing with electricity.
It was, ours is all battery powered. All battery powered here on our. It's like, I'm not poking a hole through my steel siding. It's going to be battery. Yeah.
Mine's wired because there was a wire there.
I have a doorbell with wire. I just don't trust myself to do it.
Really? Best thing you do is you have the wires and you have to test, see if you've turned the power up. Just touch them both to your tongue real quick. And if they don't feel anything, we're good.
If your tongue starts to turn black between where those two wires touch, that generally means that there's electricity.
If you're seeing stars,
yeah,
and you taste blood. We used to talk my friend Wade all the time because, like, in motorcycle world, the old days, you would foul plugs on the two-stroke. That means that it wouldn't burn off the oil, and the oil would gunk up on the spark plug and wouldn't spark. And to see if it was sparking, you would keep it plugged into the cap and set it on the side of the motor, turn the engine over, and you could see if it was sparking.
Yep.
We always tell my friend, Wade, it's not going to spark that hard. Just grab it with your finger. Then turn the engine over.
Yes.
He would do anything. Anyways, back to selling and buying stuff. John, what made you come up with this thought? Like what I there think, has to be
I think that, kind of, it was mentioned at the beginning, is that I think there's going to be a lot of us that if we're going to need something for this upcoming season, whether it's to replace something because our mixer or controller dies, or we have a speaker that blows, we're not going to find replacement pieces and we're not going to find parts. We're going to have to go and probably, if one of my tops blows up in my match set, I'm going to probably have to go buy or find another pair of tops, because to go and get that one fixed may be a 6 to 9 month process. Where, was it 2 years ago, I had a top that needed something. I think we broke one of the connections in the back, and I sent it down and it was back like 10 days later. So it was so quick and such. I don't think we're going to see that. So going and being mentally prepared to say, okay, I might have to go look used. And then once you do, okay, now how am I going to handle this to be sure for success? And one of the little things, and I don't think I even have one of them by me, is that you guys have seen videos where we've had those little USB or those the 18 volt or the 40 volt to 110 volt inverters, those little battery powered inverters. And I think for some types of situations where you're meeting in a Walmart parking lot and you're going to go check out speakers, at least you can plug them in. Those are little things that it might be worth your time to invest in, or find a buddy that has one of them, a friend who has something like that, so you're able to go and at least test it. Because as Dan mentioned earlier, I think it was, you're at the police station and you give them the cash, they give you the device, and if it doesn't work, you're kind of done. So having the right things and being prepared to give yourself the best chance of success, I think is going to be a big part of the process this year.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Was it Ben or somebody talking recently about? You would say, was it you or somebody talking about like July things would, the shipping stuff would get back to kind of normal, and now they're saying no, it will not. Right now it's looking like that they won't be back until mid 2023. Is what some of them are guesstimating. There'll be products coming in, but to be able to go and say, "Hey Ben, I need anything in your inventory and I need it in 2 weeks." It used to be he could say, "Yeah, I can do it." 95% of his inventory, let's put it that way. Now it's probably the opposite. He can maybe say, "Yeah, I can do it with 5% of what they have." Mm. And it's probably going to take another year and a half before they can get back to that thing where most of their products are available within 2 weeks. Quick drop.
This is where you also, this is where you also learn to not sell before you own the equipment.
Oh, absolutely. Don't use this money to buy that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was like the idea for, and 3 years ago, you could pull that off. Not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I actually heard the other day a guy had one of the, not even the new Mustang. He had an old, like not an older Mustang, but 5 years old, wrecked it, and it's been sitting at the shop for a couple of months because they just can't get the parts for a car that's 2 years old, 3 years old. So it's all over the place. I did see a video yesterday about the GPUs and the CPUs for computers are no longer being a shortage, but I don't know if that was right. They're like, "Oh yeah, you can get anything," and I'm like, for this week maybe until everybody buys those. And
yeah, there might be a certain thing that is available, but I know my boys were talking about graphics cards. Yeah. And how that graphics cards are now selling, the ones that they were buying 2 years ago, that they just, one of them sold one of the cards and they sold it for twice the money they paid for it.
Yeah.
So it seems kind of maybe unlikely, but yeah, you never know.
I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't understand. To me, it sounded like they yeah, can we get this? Can we get this? Can we get this? And they had all of it. but that could be, they had 5 of all of those. Yeah. When all 5 sell, we're back to no, you have to wait 6 months.
For today only, we have everything. For tomorrow, not a thing. It'll be great.
So I don't know. I'm with you, John. I'm just not seeing, like, the brands that we talked to about the DJ equipment, we're just not seeing them talk about having stuff for the summer DJs who want to pick up new stuff for the wedding season. It's just not, nobody's saying, yeah, sure, it'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for
They're
sure.
not even trying to push it, sales, hints, nothing.
I mean, think about how many, if you've signed up on anybody's website, right? Like, you get 8 emails a day of different products that they're pushing. I'm talking like the manufacturers, not necessarily the stores. And, I think back to the recent, and anything that I've seen come out has been old product. And it's been like, before it'd have like 10 items in the email. Now it's got like 1 or 2. It's a much shorter email. There's like 1 product they're promoting, and then it's like moving on. And even that, used to get like maybe 1 a week or, 1 every other week. Now it's like maybe 1 a month you get them. So, that kind of also speaks to what even they recognize. Like, they know they got to stay top of mind, but they also know they don't have the product to, go hog wild.
I think a great indication of that is 2 emails I'll mention that came today. One from Mackie, one from Chauvet. Mackie's
Chauvet one.
Yeah. Mackie's email came, and what was its lead product? It was their little speaker to go below your computer monitor. So it's like a center channel on your TV. They've been pitching that a lot. And they still talk about thumps and other speakers but that one has been talked about way more because it's in stock and it's available.
Right.
And it's also a smaller price point, so they can move more of those. And then today, Chauvet sent out an email, and it wasn't talking about lighting really per se. It was talking about studio, battery-powered studio lights, which is cool, and that's neat, but it wasn't talking about the newest moving head fixtures. It wasn't talking about this, that, or the other thing. It was talking about a podcasting light source, to have on either side of your, and just to kind of, that's the times is many companies, when they didn't have anything, they were selling boom stands for your lights. And it's like, why are you guys selling that? Oh, it's probably the only thing they could get a hold of.
Yeah,
to sell.
For real. So what can we take away from this? Because like I said, this is something that I've been doing a lot lately with all the used equipment and stuff that I have. And I think part of it is with the market I'm in, it's a little easier, and I'm a little bit more stubborn and a lot more patient. But I also, like I said, I had the backup. So right now I have my Rain. I have that Newmark Mixtrack Pro as a backup. And I also have the little SB3 that I keep in the studio for teaching classes. So I've got enough backup to sell whatever else I had.
Right.
And what else do you think could help people right now with this sale, resale, buy in the shortage of everything? And what advice do you give them?
Well, one thing I think that people need to, and if you guys are doing marketplace, you're probably doing this already, is the whole idea of, if you're going to be selling to someone, checking them out, stalk them on Facebook. You can click through, and it's sometimes it's a little cumbersome to click through, especially on a phone, but click through and check out their profile. If there's any red flags, block. You do that, as MJ said, block that. Don't feel.
I sure got. I had one guy. No, this is how bad this was one time. A guy asked about a piece of equipment, and he kept bugging me about it, bugging me over the weekend. And I finally got back to him, and I'm like, I just sold it over the weekend, which I actually had. And he goes, well, what else do you have for sale? And I said, well, I have this for sale, this for sale. And he goes, how much are they? And I sent him back the price of each one. He goes, so you want this much for all of them? I'm like, wait, do you want one of them? He goes, no, I want to buy all of them. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Again, if there's
sketchy, I'm like, nope.
If there's something out there, and it could be completely legit, but
right.
It's better to do that. And that's on the buying or the selling side. I mean, there have been, when I wanted to go pick up something for ice fishing, and I didn't know the person, I went and checked it out, because I've got to trust them that this ice fishing product, unless I can only test it if I'm on a lake, with a foot of ice. So I've got to trust them in that. So taking a little time. That's why I hate Craigslist, is because you can't. And then secondly is do the things like they talk about, meeting in a public place if it's appropriate, bringing the things to test it as best you can. Having a person with you is always a good idea. and just being as smart as possible. And then, of course, getting to, if you need gear, try to not sell anything so you aren't desperate for gear. And if you have to work around something that died last weekend, it sucks, but this is the year that you may end up having to do it. And I could see DJs this year having EV on one side and JBL on the other side, just because one of my speakers died and I was only able to get, I was able to borrow a sub and a top from my friend who has EVs. That's what we had to do. Flexibility will probably be key.
Dan, any final advice for you?
No, just be smart. Just be smart about it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Be smart with the money. Be smart with where you're meeting up. And be genuine, because in the same respect, while you're trying to out there to look for gear to buy that's used, the other person is trying to sell something, and so they're, yes, in some cases they may be trying to rip you off, and if that's the case, then go on your merry little way. But be respectful of the fact that they are trying to help themselves out, and maybe they're in a tough situation where they're just trying to cover some bills that they didn't know they had anymore, because whatever might be the
happens.
case. So
yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah. My final piece of advice is use Virtual DJ, not Megaseg.
That's how he was trying to set this up. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was show number 2 tonight. If you get a chance, you can go check out show number 1. I put that on my Facebook page this evening, so we're pretty excited about show number 1. Actually turned out to be one of our best shows ever. You'll notice the cohesiveness we had on show number 1. So, again, go to John Young, or facebook.com/JohnYoungMN, and you'll be able to see show number 1 this evening. And I have to say, it's probably some of our best work ever.
Dan hasn't seen it yet.
Hanging with Howie is up next. He's going to be talking about apps you cannot live without. So you guys can jump out there, DJNTV.com/chill, and talk a little bit about that and share some of your apps that you are absolutely cannot live without. Obviously, MJ is a big fan of Megaseg, so that's going to be mentioned at least once.
They have an app. They're not even good enough for that.
No, I don't think they
don't have an app.
That's true. They don't have an app.
Plus, they're also only Mac only, so...
Yeah, it doesn't count for anything. So, other than that, let's see. Tomorrow night, the guys are going to be. We'll have one of the recordings going up for the first show at 9:00 Eastern, 10:00 Eastern. Jay and Brian will be back and chatting away with some things. Let's see. This is MJ. We're at the beginning of the month, so.
I'm trying to do more. You're going to get at least a virtual DJ show sometime this month. I'm hoping to do 2 or something. I don't know. I also have a thing to talk to you and John about a new network for doing video that does not hit the copyright stuff. So that's something maybe we could talk about doing music shows.
That'd be interesting. That would be very interesting. So we'll have to talk more about that. So gang, that's it. DJNTV.com/chill once we're done here, and go hang out with Howie this evening. Dan, I think it's you.
Is there anything left to say? But thank you very much for tuning in. Have yourself a great night, and we'll see you next week.